probably not the last we've heard of Hugo. So we know the decks, we know the players, let's just head straight on into the game here. One of these players will be going straight on into the grand finals, the other player won't be out of it, they'll be dropping down to the losers finals to take on Zach Lesage with his Pikachu and Zekrom deck.
So it looks like we're going to be kickstarting on Brent's side, and he has got himself a decent hand there. And we actually have side switcher going on today, guys. So we're going to see both players' hands throughout this game, which is fantastic. Hugo, I think, forced to go first here. He's got a Cramorant starting a few ball search cards. That's not too shabby for him. Actually, getting a few energy into the discard pile early could be a real dream for the Blacephalon deck. So this looks like a really strong start for him.
Yeah, it's always nice to have those energy in the discard. You've got cards like Fire Crystal and Energy Retrieval that can get them back. And we've seen the Blacephalon deck take these giant turns, and it's rare that you see the giant turns without playing multiple recovery cards. So, you know, your 2 Fire Crystal turn into 6 energy in hand. But this early game Pokeball looks like it is, Quick Ball, looks like it is turning into a Reshiram and Charizard. Of course, that is a big Pokemon. It can take a little bit of a hit. It can deal a fair bit of damage.
Yeah, and he's playing quite calmly with the hand as well. I really like this. I think Hugo's really identified that this is a very strong card, potentially, against the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, because so often they're going to try and use their Boltund quickly. That has 200 hit points. That's in range of a Double Blaze GX. And then, thanks to Hugo playing the Galarian Zigzagoon in his deck, he could then move into Flare Strike that does 230, just 10 short of dealing with the Pikachu and Zekrom. So if you get the Zigzagoon involved, that could be a really easy route for him to find, you know, 5 of his 6 prizes just with this one Reshiram and Charizard. So he's already identified that this is a really nice card for the matchup.
Yeah, the numbers work out absolutely perfectly here. You've still got the option of Blacephalon to go ahead and take those giant KOs, and Pikachu and Zekrom is a deck that really wants to use Dedenne, as we've seen Brent here plays a Dedenne down straight away, and of course, Cramorant likes being able to attack Dedenne. We do see that Boltund hitting the field along with a Tapu Koko, and down comes Marnie. Marnie is not a card that Blacephalon tends to love all that much. Having said that, I'm not loving Brent's hand after it.
It's actually looking pretty okay. I think he's got the Electrify guaranteed, so I think he'll deal with this quite happily. Crushing Hammers are okay. Forcing extra energies out of Hugo, never a bad thing. He's also picked up the Chaotic Swell, and I think when you play 2 copies, you're quite happy to throw one of these down. To be honest, you know, not many options after this turn, but right now it's pretty reasonable, and at the very least, thanks to the weakness that Cramorant has, he's forcing Hugo to move that out the way in fear of getting hit with an aggressive Bolt Storm early on.
Oh, absolutely. That turn went perfectly. Getting the Electrify is awesome, but for next turn, there's really not much on the board, although he would still be able to attack with Boltund, and like you said, that Cramorant is weak, so there's a decent chance it's not going to stay in the active. Looking at Hugo's hand here, he's got a Dedenne to draw himself cards if he wants to. He's got that Pokemon communication, so he's already got access to whichever other Pokemon he likes here. So even though he did get hit with a Marnie, he's looking all right here in terms of options. Really is going to need a Welder and some energy, though, to get rolling with attacks. And that Chaotic Swell really taking away even the option of Giant Half. That's not what you want this early in the game.
Yeah, so Hugo's in a bit of an awkward spot. I think he'll always be Dede changing. I think you pretty much always also put down the Jirachi. I think the manual attachment I prefer onto Reshiram and Charizard, but the amount of draw he has available to him, I think you just hope to try and find a switch out here. But also going defensively and taking a 2-prize knockout, which is somewhat safer into that Dedenne that you mentioned, could also be a route that he's looking for here.
Absolutely, it's just an easier thing. And there we see Welder and double fire energy, so straight away Hugo's got all the cards he needs to get a KO onto that Dedenne. It's not really slowing down Brent or taking away attackers or anything like that, but it's at least getting him ahead in the prize race. And this, you don't want to see this, literally playing a Giant Half just to get rid of Chaotic Swell. That's all it does.
Yeah, but again, Hugo's left in not the best situation after this as well. Brent, you know, with the Boltund sticking around here, he'll be quite easily able to just take a response KO on the Cramorant. And then Hugo's just down to, you know, attempting to Stellar Wish a couple times to get him out of awkward situation. Hopefully these prizes can help him out. But both players kind of running on very little. Hugo's kept up in tempo and taken the first few prizes, which we've always seen him do. He's always trying to just take the initiative on whatever is available. He's not picky with his prize cards. He's just trying to get as many as he can as quickly as possible. You know, and finding the easiest route here. Brent's drawn, again, not the most helpful card. He's drawn Air Balloon. This could let him full blitz, which is actually a I think that's a much better play for him, because then he's not afraid of a Reshiram and Charizard. So actually a big draw for him. Full blitzing, looking pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Not having any energy on the Charizard means that you're not getting 4 energy on a Charizard in one turn. So with Pikachu and Zekrom out of the way, getting the easy KO on Cramorant and accelerating free energy while you do so, presumably to the Raichu and Alolan Raichu to have another attacker set up ready to go, I like this a lot. Could attach it to the Pikachu and Zekrom itself to try and go for a really cheeky Tag Bolt to hit both the active and the bench next turn. Really depends on how likely Brent thinks it is he might get KO'd. It's not that likely, and he's actually done it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a big argument for it. Like you said, there's, Hugo's board isn't that intimidating, and he's actually just taken his Tapu Koko Prism Star from the prize cards. I was about to say that he hadn't used Dance of the Ancients yet, so there's a big argument that you could still have enough energy, that can burst on the field if you can access that card, even if the Pikachu and Zekrom is taken down. But Brent's just putting his chips in the middle here. He's really just trying to pressurize Hugo as quickly as possible. Stellar Wishing to a Welder is a good start for Hugo here. There's no way he can deal with this Pikachu and Zekrom with his current hand, though. He could still try and go for some Oranguru plays, possibly, to access a Blacephalon, but even then, he doesn't have much reach in his hand right now.
It's going to be really awkward. Giant Half, if it can be found, would be in play here, but you need to welder onto a Blacephalon. That's the only way you're getting a KO here, and there is no Blacephalon on the field. So, I mean, what do? Do you Primate Wisdom a single card and hope that single card is either a Blacephalon or a way to draw into one? I mean, I think you do here, but it's not got the most chances. And if there's no KO on Pikachu and Zekrom's probably taking 3 prizes next turn.
Yeah, and Hugo can't even just sort of try and slowly welder twice to the Reshiram and Charizard, because if that's the play that he makes, Brent can quite easily just Tag Bolt the 1 prize into the Jirachi and just put 170 damage onto the Reshiram and Charizard and set it up nicely for a 2-hit KO. So this slower approach with the Reshiram still has a lot of risks here.
Really does. We do see the Giant Half being drawn into there, which is nice. There is another Jirachi with a switch and a scoop up net, so there is access to a few more cards for Hugo here. He's certainly not out of it in that regard. But honestly, it's not exactly what we'd be looking for. He wants to try and get these big KOs, and as it stands at the moment, I'm not seeing the big KOs coming out here.
No, certainly not going to be a KO at all this turn. And the problem is, because Brent's made this play and it's, it left Hugo with not enough to really work with, that this all-in play has really just pole vaulted him really, really far ahead at this stage. Looks like Hugo might be doing up some setup damage with Outrage here, possibly even just double blazing into the active. If you do 200 this turn and then retreat out and find a way into a Blacephalon, you at least force Gusting from Brent, who, let's be fair, hasn't had a supporter the last few turns, so he's not necessarily out of it, but not the best position to be in.
No, not at all. I mean, this basically puts Brent on a 2-turn clock. You hit into the Reshiram and Charizard, you KO the Dedenne, and then it's just 1 hit, and then you're out. We do see Crushing Hammer coming down, getting an energy off the Reshiram and Charizard, and crucially did draw a Professor's Research. That gives Brent access to a whole bunch of extra cards here, which is, well, it's pretty much exactly what he wanted, really.
Yeah, I think that was the only fear for Brent, was that, he could, he's getting a huge turn off here with the Tag Bolt GX, no doubt. He'll be taking some additional prize cards, but getting some extra energies in play to actually close the game is going to be super important for him here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's going to need probably some Gusting next turn as well. We do see the 2 prizes off of the Dedenne. That Reshiram and Charizard now has very little health remaining. We'll be able to just Outrage for a nice easy KO on the Pikachu and Zekrom. And, I mean, this game is not going to last very much longer at all. One of those tag teams is going to go down, and it's going to be a couple attacks, and we're going to see the end of the game.
And I think it's down to Hugo to, just avoid boss's orders for a turn here. He's going to switch out of his Reshiram and Charizard and Stellar Wish. It's too risky for him to actually attempt to attack with Reshiram and Charizard, but this Stellar Wish hasn't helped him at all.
That's not good.
Nothing. No. Just switch out some more energy. That's the only thing he's found this whole game, just a bunch of energy cards, essentially. You can try and Oranguru now, but even then, this is last-ditch efforts here.
Yeah, this Primate Wisdom is huge because at the moment it looks like Hugo's out of the game right now. We need a big draw off here. It's a Blacephalon, but there's no welder to attach energy. There's no way to really activate. Last turn, if that had been the draw off Primate Wisdom, things could have been a little bit different. But unfortunately, there's really not much going on here. You can attack for a little bit of damage, but... Oh, to be fair, if you hit an energy off Blazer, this will be a KO. Ah, it's a quick ball.
Yeah. He'd be 10 short, right? I believe it.
He would. Yeah, Giant Charm.
Yeah, so he'd be 10 short with the damage, but it would put him in Zigzagoon range to try and win over 2 turns. But as it stands, Brent's able to easily quick ball, find himself an Eldegoss. That's going to allow him to grab boss's orders. He can bring back up the heavily damaged Reshiram and Charizard, and he's made quick work of that first game.
Yeah, that was a very, very well played game by Brent there. That was... Well, it was all in. It was a tag bolt play, setting up the using full blitz to set up the tag bolt. It's not something you always see Pikachu and Zekrom players doing, because when it goes right, you have a game like you just saw. When it goes wrong, you've got 6 energy on your active Pikachu and Zekrom. That goes down, you give up free prizes, and if you've got 6 energy on your Pikachu and Zekrom, you probably haven't got enough energy on your other attackers to really close out the game. It is a phenomenal play if you can avoid a KO, but Brent basically looked at what Hugo had done throughout the game, looked at the board and went, I know your Blacephalon can get a one-hit KO, but I just don't think it's going to.
Yeah, how likely is it just off of a reset stamp, 1 Stellar Wish in the active, no Oricorio developed, anything like that? I think Swell had just been removed, but even then there was no Stadium in play that he was afraid of, so really just trying to make Hugo have as much as possible is the right play, I think, for Pikachu and Zekrom. The biggest fear factor for Brent would have been that he had that Tapu Koko Prism Star prize. So he basically said the game basically ends exactly on that turn. Either Hugo doesn't deal with me and I'm always going to win, or Hugo deals with the Pikachu and Zekrom and I just concede into the next game because, you know, you can't sit there electrifying any longer. You're just going to get rolled over at that point. So yeah, good risk from Brent there. Definitely the right call, I think, to just put everything onto the Pikachu and Zekrom and really pressurize. It was interesting that he went for the Dedenne rather than the Jirachi, because I think your prize map is still the same, and then you're denying Stellar Wish from Hugo. So I'm not sure what 2 prize Pokemon he was afraid that Hugo could use against him, possibly putting down like an Oricorio GX or something like that, just for additional draw to be a little bit safer. But I think Brent's prize map was always going to be dealing with the Charizard plus you know, the Dedenne or the Jirachi, and it's surprising that he didn't go for Jirachi because it's just such much more valuable because it's continuing to draw Hugo cards. But regardless, he was able to hold a really robust hand and quick ball for the Eldegoss to bring back up the Charizard in that first game.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. We did see Hugo using the Jirachi, but the Jirachi just didn't give him anything in the end. And I think Brent needs to be a little bit worried here. I mean, you know, we talked about the Reshiram and Charizard, we talked about the Blacephalon. Hugo looks like he's got some Pokemon that can give really good answers to the multiple prize Pokemon that Brent's throwing out, and they're either single prize Pokemon or they're out of range from the majority of Brent's attacks. So Hugo does look like this is not a particularly terrible matchup, but he is down 1 game to 0. So let's head on over to game 2, see if Hugo can come on back or whether Brent is going to be heading on into winners finals.
And Hugo's approach play was good in that first game. I liked that he identified the Reshiram and Charizard so nicely there. It can be such a big deal. He just had an unfortunate turn of events in that first game where he was forced into Cramorant early, and that made life much easier for Brent, even though he was left with a supportless hand to so easily just respond KO. Whereas the Reshiram and Charizard is just so much bigger. You know, the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, it gets into intimidating damage, but only after a few full blitzes. So if Hugo can get a few prizes ahead early on, that's going to be his key to victory here.
Absolutely. I'm liking Hugo's start here. He's got Blacephalon, he's got Free Fire Energy, he's got a Welder. Brent does have Electromagnetic Radar. That's going to get him his Pokemon, usually an attacker and a Dedenne, as we see here. But all 4 of his switches. Now, he's still got Air Balloon, which is nice, but things like, you know, Raichu and Alolan Raichu, it wants to switch to the bench and then become active. Maybe it's not going to be such a big deal here. Maybe it will against Reshiram and Charizard if Hugo does go for these big Pokemon again, but it means that Hugo's going to have to be really careful which Pokemon are in the active, because he can retreat, but switching in and out is going to be awkward.
Yeah, it certainly will do. Brent has prized his Raichu and Alolan Raichu, so it may not be coming out for a little bit. He's also got the fallback of the Tapu Koko V, which could be a nice 2 prize option that has natural free retreat. So I think he won't be too afraid of this right now. He's also got that early Chaotic Swell, which is really good for slowing down Hugo's early push potential. He's also drawn into a few ball search cards. No easy discard of basic energy here, so the Tapu Koko Prism Star not quite ready to get involved just yet. We'll see if he's happy to hold on this hand or if he wants to push any further with it.
I mean, he's got his energy attached, he's got his attackers out. He could be setting up for a turn 2 full blitz, he could be going for an Electrify to try and get some energy on the field. Of course, going for a slower Electrify game plan going first against a deck with the explosive potential of Hugo's might not always lead to victory, but I mean, the advantage Brent has here is that he's up 1-0, and if we do have a game 3, Brent is going to be choosing whether to go first or second, so he's in a pretty good position. He doesn't need to necessarily win this game, but he certainly needs to think about which the better option is going to be.
So passing over to Hugo now, he's got a big 3-card draw from Welder here. It would be absurd if he was able to actually reach a 1-hit KO this turn, but not only that, he actually needs some backup Pokemon here. If he's actually gonna, have, a good standing in this game, but looks like he's drawn into Cramorant. Could be a switch into a Beat Catch play here because his hand isn't doing too much else.
I mean, that was my first thought when I saw the hand. You've got Cramorant, you've got energy, you've got a switch. Blacephalon is hitting for 50 damage when you discard that 1 energy. It's not doing enough. You're not getting enough damage on the field. Cramorant's weak to lightning. You're giving up 2 prizes by doing it. You don't want to do it. But it's one of those situations where you either pull off a play you don't want to pull off, or you pretty much lose the game.
Yeah, and the difference here, unlike last time when the Cramorant went and got knocked out so quickly, if Brent does get aggressive and uses Pikachu and Zekrom to full blitz through this Cramorant, at least Hugo now has a 2 energy Blacephalon, so it'll not be too much reach for him to actually get a response. So we probably won't be seeing Brent go quite as all in with his full blitz, if at all he is able to get there.
Absolutely, and because we've got these switching sides here, we can see exactly what Hugo's going for. Looks like he's going for a quick ball, give him access to some more Pokemon, and an energy spinner to just allow him to search out an energy there next turn. So, setting up to basically say, look, I'm going to be able to attack with his Blacephalon next turn, but I'm also going to be able to get myself some more Pokemon on the field.
Brent's had a really nice draw for turn, drew into the Marnie to instantly deny that Beat Catch. It's going to give him a lot more safety now when he's going for this Electrify play. I think he was right to not really make a push with Professor's Research to try and, go hard for the Tapu Koko play. There was just no easy discards of basic energy anywhere for him. So taking the conservative Electrify certainly looks to be the right move. He's drawn into Big Charm, which he could put down even onto his Dedenne if he feels it's important enough to deny the Spit Shot prizes. Or it could be held as well just to make that Pikachu and Zekrom a little tankier. Couple good options here for him.
He is, and he did hit heads on Crushing Hammer, which is really big because now Blacephalon, rather than being a manual attachment, is a welder away from being able to attack. So the Electrify comes down here. The Dedenne is out of Cramorant range, which probably isn't relevant. I don't think we'll see another Lightning Weak Cramorant, but it's still out of range regardless. And, well, the Cramorant, I suppose, is staying active, but it's not what you really want to be using. So we see Electrify, there's energy going on the field, the Dedenne's out of Cramorant range, the Blacephalon needs a welder, and we can see Hugo's hand. It is not a good hand.
No, certainly not giving him much help at all there. The Celtic Swell blocking Hugo's Stadium in the first instance. He's drawn into a Pokemon Communication, so if he really wants to, he could scoop up net his Blacephalon and turn it into a Dedenne. It might be something that he has to do here because the Cramorant is just so vulnerable. He's just going to grab this Fire Energy out first with the Energy Spinner. Let's see what else he wants to do here. Looks like he's committing to the Blacephalon and just probably Beat Catching again then.
I mean, the good news is that Cramorant hasn't gone down, so, I mean, I suppose the thought process from Hugo here is, I could have gone down 2 prizes last turn, I didn't, so I suppose if I go down 2 prizes again, it's maybe not that bad, because it could have happened last turn, and my opponent just played a Marnie, so fingers crossed they don't have another Marnie. I mean, Hugo's in a bad position here, lost game 1, and this game 2 is really not going as he wanted it to, so he gets to Beat Catch, gets to search out the perfect 2 cards, hopefully guaranteeing a big turn next turn, but Hugo is really on the back foot here.
He is, and even this Beat Catch isn't looking great for him. He's going to be picking up the Giant Hearth and the Quick Ball Quick Ball, nice and flexible. It can give him, Oricorio potentially. It could give him a few other things. I think we saw the Electrify split the energies just so that Brent could use this energy switch to lower the amount of cards in his hand for the Crobat here. So some nice shuffling of energies with his energy switches, and then just the Crobat to draw into a fresh 6 cards. He does draw into another Marnie to again block the beat catch, which is really big. He also gets another heads-on Crushing Hammer, which is really setting Hugo back quite a long way now as well. We're going to see another Pikachu and Zekrom potentially come down, and yeah, he always fires off the Marnie here, because denying beat catch 2 times in a row with a 2-prize knockout, that's going to be really strong for Brent.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of attacks over the history of the game that search for X number of cards that you want. Anytime that comes down, you're looking for hand disruption. Marnie plus Crushing Hammer, so now again, the Blacephalon does need a welder. Good news is, Hugo's got welder and 2 fire energy. Bad news is, not a huge amount else, and the Cramorant goes down giving up 2 prizes, and Brent's been setting up his board really nicely here. He's got energy on the Pikachu and Zekrom, and the other Pikachu and Zekrom, he's got the Boltund ready to go. So again, we're back to please hit good cards off this welder.
Ooh, okay, so he's drawn 1 Fire Crystal. That puts him 1 Fire Energy away from a response knockout. He has drawn a couple of basics. I think you start with your Oranguru and change your Welder for a different card and see what you get off that, because he's kind of in the last chance saloon right now.
I mean, energy off Oranguru would give a KO on the Boltund, which would be nice, or a switching card would potentially give access to a Jirachi, but he's used his supporter for the turn, and there really isn't much going on here at all. So you pop the welder back, you cross your fingers. Ooh. It is a basic energy, so that does mean he can hit 200 damage, which I'm fairly sure will get a KO on that Boltund. So evening up the prize trade, putting the Jirachi down for after the inevitable response KO. It's not a perfect turn from Hugo, but it's just about keeping up.
Yeah, he's clinging on right now. He's responding with a 2-prize knockout. Brent, he can only really full blitz next turn. There's no other play available to him, realistically. So it's going to be, throwing a 3-prize Pokemon into the fray and hoping that Hugo can't sort of create another huge turn.
Absolutely it is. Brent does have the free retreating Tapu Koko in the active. Plays a quick ball straight away, looking it looks like for the Boltund here, to potentially just thin out his deck, maybe give him a backup attacker. He's got a bunch of options there in terms of the tag teams that he can use to attack. And like you said, it pretty much has to be a full blitz this turn. But Boltund can be a nice backup attacker. First, though, we're going to see a Dance to the Ancients, because more energy is good.
Yeah, that sets up the full blitz quite happily for him, and then you get 2 energy on the back Pikachu and Zekrom, so it means he doesn't have to do the big sort of YOLO kind of play where you just put all 6 onto the one in the front. You put 3 in the active and 5 on the back, as long as you have enough energy remaining in the deck. He's drawn into a Crushing Hammer, but he's already taking all the energy off the field with a KO here quite happily. We can see the retreat with that Tapu Koko. 1 Pikarom, full blitzing, probably throwing the rest to the one in the back, setting up again another Tag Bolt GX for next turn, and Hugo once again on the clock.
Yeah, and this is a much, much better Tag Bolt setup than in the first game, because in the first game it was all or nothing. Here, you've already got free energy on a different Pikachu and Zekrom, so you've not just got 1 attacker on the board, you've got 2, one of which is threatening that huge turn. So it's a less risky play than it was back in game 1. And Hugo here, I mean, he doesn't even have a fire energy in hand right now, so he's not even able to play that welder as it stands. So probably your Pokemon communication, the Cramorant for a Pokemon that's going to draw you some cards. Either way, it's back to that just clinging on, desperate to draw that one thing that can just keep in the game. There's only so many turns you can do this.
Yeah, and the problem is the majority of cards that he'd like to use to draw would be the Oricorio or the Dedenne, but those all fall in range of the Tag Bolt. I'm surprised we didn't actually see the Crobat there. I think Crobat's the perfect solution here. The only thing you'd lose to is Boss's Orders plus energy, which Brent actually currently is holding. So Hugo's going to have to try and make something happen here with just the draws from Welder and Stellar Wish alone.
Yeah, it's not looking perfect. You do have the Welder with free energy, though. That Fire Crystal claim in clutch to allow him to use the Welder, which is absolutely beautiful. And, does draw a Dedenne, but again, Dedenne will be KO'd by the residual damage from Tag Bolt, which would end the game because Brent's got 3 prizes remaining, so you can't really play the Dene. I think you were right, Joe. It had to be Crobat, even though Brent actually does have the hand.
Yeah.
Hugo doesn't know that.
No. So we might even see the Oranguru change the Dedenne out for a different card into the Giant Hearth, into the Stellar Wish. I think that's probably the best sequencing you can do here, because you always have to hold on to the Welder for the next turn anyway. But is there any combination of cards that actually gets you this KO? The Oranguru has to get you... Wow, okay, so he's having to take the risk with Dedenne. He's not thinking that he can get there otherwise, but it's so easy for Brent to simply come in with an energy attachment and win the game after this. So I think you just had to... you had really, really low chances, let's be real here. If Oranguru then gets you exactly Fire Crystal, and that would be your only win condition, right? It gets you exactly Fire Crystal, then you can Giant Hearth, and then you would Stellar Wish to find exactly a switch out. That's the only way that you could safely take a 3-prize knockout here. And, he had a 30-card deck and only 3 Fire Crystals remaining. So really low odds to win. But by putting down these Pokemon, yes, you're likely to get the response KO here, but, the Pikachu and Zekrom can so easily respond and just take the win.
Yeah, you laid it out beautifully. That was the route to victory. That was the only way that Hugo gets a KO here. Even then, it's still looking quite low, but as it stands at the moment, Brent literally needs an energy card, and he'll KO whatever's in the active, plus one of those 2-prize Pokemon on the bench, and that's going to be 3 prizes and a win. I don't think at this stage Hugo can come back, and being 1 game down, I'm pretty sure that means we're going to be putting Brent through to the Grand Finals.
Yeah, I can't see anything scary from Hugo's hand that prevents this right now. It looks like it's pretty much wrapped up based on the hand that Brent's got.
Yeah, and we've already seen a Welder come down, so we shouldn't be seeing any supporter shenanigans from Hugo here. We do see a scoop up net. Blacephalon goes active. Good news is there's lots of energy, so the KO is not going to be an issue. But honestly here, you just need to cross your fingers and hope Brent doesn't have an energy or a way to draw into an energy, and because we've got the beautiful camera here showing both sides, we unfortunately can confirm that Brent does have the energy.
Yeah, it's the only thing going for Hugo really was that you saw that Brent full blitz only 2 to the back, knowing that there's no basic energies remaining, so it would have been a bit of a push to get there, and there's only a few speed lightnings remaining in the deck, but Brent does have access to that, so it's going to be simply promoting the Pikachu and Zekrom, attaching the speed lightning, and he can simply announce the tag bolt. He can choose either the Dedenne or the Oricorio to take those 3 prizes and win a really convincing 2-0 victory there to make his way to Grand Finals.
Yeah, congratulations to Brent going over into the Grand Finals. A very, very well-played series there. Hugo got it down to 1 prize remaining. Hugo got it close. The Blacephalon deck, it kind of sneaks up on you. It takes big prizes and big knockouts, and it gets close to winning, closer than sometimes you realise, but unfortunately could not close it out. Didn't necessarily have the best luck or the best draws in that series, but unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes. We know Hugo's a fantastic player. We've seen how well he's been able to navigate his way through this tournament. The downside for Hugo, well, the upside is he's going down into the losers finals to play Zach Lesage. The downside is he's just lost a best-of-3 series to Pikachu and Zekrom, and his route to victory in this tournament is beating Pikachu and Zekrom, and then beating Pikachu and Zekrom.
And that's a little bit tricky. I think the thing for Hugo there is it looked like quite a bad beat there, but let's be honest, Brent drew quite nicely. He drew his Swells early, he only plays 2 copies, and he only plays 3 copies of Marnie, and he drew all of those in the opening turns where it's most effective against Blacephalon. So it really allowed Brent to really push the tempo with Full Blitz and make those Tag Bolt plays available to him. If he doesn't have those same combinations every single time, Hugo has a much better attempt at taking the wins there. And it was interesting that Hugo never really tried to weave in the Reshiram and Charizard in that second game. I don't think he had enough ball search really to ever try and make it happen, but I think that's the least resource intensive way that he can take initial prizes, and it's one of those things that can't really be stopped easily from the Pikachu and Zekrom players. So we'll see if it's going to be something that he implements in the next finals of the losers bracket.
It is going to be interesting to see. It is worth pointing out that Brent was flipping very well on his Crushing Hammers in that series.
True.
And Reshiram and Charizard is one of the few not one to